Hi, and welcome to Prepping Essentials. Good morning, it's 6:30 on Saturday the 2nd of October. Just making my way down to the land, and as always, not quite sure what we're going to get done today, but let's find out. Well, good morning, here we are down on the land, and it's a cool morning this morning. We've actually had, believe it or not, a couple of days where we've had a little bit of rain. So I'm quite keen this morning to take a look at the water tanks to see just how much has gone in. I did check, I think it was Thursday, and although we hadn't had heavy rain particularly, and it was very short-lived, it had added about 100 litres to each of the tanks. So that's more than welcome. I'm hoping there's a bit more than that in there today, but I guess we'll find out in due course. Anyway, enough of me gossiping as I go down the field. Let's get inside, get opened up, and see what we can get done today. Well, first things first, as usual, chickens have got their little corn mix. It's the weekend, so I've got some greenery for them as well, and they're quite content at the moment, pecking around. You would think they'd never been fed. They are strange and funny. Anyway, let's take a little look in the coop, see what we've got going on in there. I did clean out on Thursday, so I'm not expecting that many eggs this morning, but it would be nice to have 5 or 6. As usual, messy. I did clear all this out. I think it was Tuesday. It's a bit of light on the scene. You can tell we're getting to winter. Oh, look at that, look. There we go. Yeah, you can tell it's getting near to winter. It's darker in the morning and it's cooler. 10 degrees in the cabin this morning when I opened up. To say that it is, alright, it's not technically winter, it's autumn, but to say that it is this time of year, that's a day's worth. That's not bad for 6 chickens. Water is okay, food, today or tomorrow I'll top up, and I'll give them a clean out today as well. So that's the chickens sorted out. Let's get in the cabin and get me sorted out with a cup of coffee. I'll be back with your greenery chickens a little bit later on. Well, good morning. It's the weekend and we're into October already. I really don't know where the time goes. It does go quick. This coffee's more than welcome this morning. I almost had my hat on. You can see the steam coming off there, but it is cool this morning. It's been cool pretty much all week. I was just taking a quick look when I opened the polytunnel at those potatoes outside, and they're not happy at all. I think I might need to bring them inside at some point. In fact, there's quite a lot that I want to get done in the garden today. A bit more tidying up, following on from last week. It's time, I think, to take a look at those tomatoes and make a decision whether they're coming out or not, because they are pretty much at the end, and now the temperature's dropped. Even more reason, I think, to look at taking those out and freeing up a little bit of space to see what else I can put in for overwintering. I am keen this year to plan a little bit more for an early start with the garden next year. We did have a late start because of frost, but hopefully fingers crossed, with a little bit of jiggery pokery on the heating front, I'm hoping to get a bit more of an early start next year. But that's not really what I was going to talk about this morning in the cabin chat. I was going to talk about not panicking, and instead of panicking, preparing. So let's have a little chat about that. So don't panic, prepare. We've had such almost 2 years now of chaos. All of last year was pretty much dominated with COVID, and it should have been an awakening for a lot more people than it has. The shortages that we had, the restriction of movement, people staying home from work, complete and utter chaotic disruption to normal life. You would have thought that more people would have woken up and gone, do you know what? These little crises can happen at any time, completely out of the blue. Maybe I should be thinking ahead a little bit and preparing for things like this. The empty supermarket shelves, which were generally caused by people panicking. All of the stockpiling toilet rolls and the complete craziness that went on last year should have proved the point that things can go wrong pretty much overnight, and it would be a good idea to think ahead a little bit and prepare yourselves so that you're not caught out. But things went back to normal and we trundled on through the year, and in terms of supply chain, it was pretty much business as usual all the way through last year and into the start of this year. And then as we started opening up and everybody really started to get back to normal, that's when things went wrong again with the supply chain. The factories weren't ready to deal with the uptick in demand. The supply chain was still not ready to deal with the uptick in demand. And the warehouses stock that had been built up during COVID suddenly started to run dry. So you started to see massive disruption across the whole of the world. It's not one particular country. And everything started to be tight in terms of availability. This went pretty much unnoticed all the way through the summer, and it's only in the last few months that people have started to see empty shelves again. They've started to see with a vengeance price rises. And now the media this month, well, I say this month, it's October, September last month, the media started talking about it, and it kind of sent everybody into this little bit of a panic again, because the media, they're not your friends. They're deliberately starting to pump the message about shortages at Christmas. And if there's any time of the year that matters to people in terms of availability of food in particular, it is Christmas. It's the time of year when people do get together in family groups and have bigger meals and more frequently together than they do throughout the rest of the year. People do go out at Christmas. Rather than cooking Christmas dinner in the home, a lot of people go out and have family Christmas dinners out in a restaurant somewhere. So demand for food does always spike at this time of year, and especially that Christmas week or two. People take time off work. A lot of businesses just shut down at Christmas. So there are a lot more people eating together and eating more. It's traditionally a time of more. So anybody in the media who starts talking about shortages for Christmas is definitely going to whip people up into a frenzy and a panic. And that's exactly what you're seeing now. You're seeing people panicking and buying turkeys and turkey crowns, and generally buying more of the Christmas seasonal goods than they would normally. It's also created a panic about availability of gifts. So people are already out now because the media's told them it's not going to be there at Christmas. So they're starting to empty the shelves of gift items. So we've got that little bit of a panic going on. We've seen over the last 2 weeks this completely people-induced petrol shortage. Nobody, including me, is denying that the supply chain is tight and that there might be a shortage of big truck drivers. I'm not saying that it's a crisis shortage, because it isn't. We've managed perfectly well this last few years with exactly the same number less of drivers that the media has been fear-mongering about, with this message of, oh, we're 100,000 truck drivers short. We've been 100,000 truck drivers short all the way through this year and last year. And before that, we were 80,000, 60,000, 40,000 as you go back over the years. So this isn't something that's suddenly come upon us as a big dramatic crisis. It's something that's always been there and has been exacerbated, certainly last year, and I've mentioned it in lots of videos. It's been exacerbated by the sudden massive increase in online shopping, which has created a massive increase in the requirement for truck drivers to service all of these new huge warehouses that have sprung up over the past year and a half through the country. It's a global thing. It's not just here. The same exact thing has happened in other countries. Other countries have seen a boom in online shopping. So it's not just one particular country and one particular issue that's created this. And if people just go about their normal business, it isn't a crisis. But again, the media has put this message out there and it's created a crisis. And we've seen it this last 2 weeks with fuel. The media put out a message, oh, the petrol stations have run out of petrol. It's a crisis. So everybody jumped on that bandwagon, went out, filled up the tanks when they don't normally fill up the tanks, and emptied the petrol stations, creating a massive crisis. That has gone back to normal, by the way. The media is, even this morning as I left the house, the media is still putting out that message. And they had a guy stood there, a news reporter, at a petrol station, which had one car. Apart from that, it was completely empty. But he was doing his best to perpetuate this myth. Oh, all the petrol stations are empty, you can't get fuel. Oh, nonsense. It is back to normal. The only place that it's not back to normal is London and the home counties, that bottom little corner of the country, where there are still petrol stations that don't have sufficient, with the odd one or two that might be empty altogether. But again, the media's putting out this big fear story. Oh, the army's been brought in. Yeah, today. Not last week and the week before when we did have a crisis. Today. And for a whole country of, I forget how many petrol stations there are, somebody did quote it on the media, it was 200 and something thousand petrol stations. There's 150 truck drivers been brought in by the army. And they're starting today. You haven't got 150 today. So it's a gesture by government to try and reassure people, but the gesture by the media is to try and perpetuate this fear. So yeah, shortages, yes, it is a real thing. There is supply chain disruption, particularly around food and other items that come from overseas. But it's not right now this huge crisis. But if people jump on the fear bandwagon, it will rapidly become a real crisis. The economy, the furlough or job retention scheme, whatever you want to call it, the government support stopped at the end of September. So yesterday was the first day where all of this government intervention and support measure stopped. So there were still 1 million plus people on the furlough scheme, so being paid for sitting at home and not going to work. That came to an end. The ban on evictions for people who have not been paying their rent or mortgage, that stopped yesterday. The mortgage and car loan holiday period stopped yesterday. The reduction in tax for business, the VAT, stopped. All of these support measures stopped yesterday. So I am anticipating a bit of a crisis now that that has stopped. I suspect you're going to see an awful lot of these people who were on furlough and allegedly going to go back to work on Monday. I suspect a lot of those won't, and a lot of those businesses have just been kept going by government handouts, and they're going to close. So watch out for an uptick in unemployment. Certainly watch out for an impact on the housing market, because house prices through this last year have gone completely crazy. In general, due to COVID, a lot of people are trying to move out of the cities and into more rural areas. So there's been a massive demand for housing outside of the cities. Government had also reduced the tax, stamp duty, on house purchase, which has now come to an end. So that helped to boom the house market and push the prices ever higher. That's now stopped. So again, I suspect that we'll see certainly a drop in prices, but I actually think that as we go into next year, we're going to see the housing bubble burst, and we're going to see a massive drop in prices, which will then put people under pressure. People who have bought in the market at these high prices are suddenly going to find that they're in negative equity. They actually owe more to the bank than the house is worth. So that's another strain on the economy. And I think in general, if you look at the economy, I really do think that we're heading towards the end of these high stock market prices, and that a complete crash is on the cards at some point in the coming year. It's not just me, there's lots of people talking about it. A lot of people have been expecting it this year, but the support measures for COVID have just kept going and going and going and going and going. They've pushed those further and further, kicking the can down the road. But they're at an end now, as of yesterday. So watch this space in terms of the economy and the potential for another economic crash. We are seeing it in some parts of the world already. China has had a massive intervention. One of the biggest companies there was going to go bust last week, and with a bit of jiggery-pokery they've managed to stave that off, but for how long, nobody really knows. And lots of people were suggesting that that was the one thing that might trigger this global economic crash. So it's not over yet with that particular issue, so keep an eye on that. But it's not just one country, it is a global thing. There's lots of stuff going on in the background with supply chain, with economy, with the lingering effects of COVID and the potential for new variants of COVID coming along, which would just give government another excuse to lock down again and to bring in all of these draconian measures that we've had over the last year and a half. So what am I trying to say with all of this? Well, it is what it says on the tin, on the title of the video. There's so much stuff going on right now, and we've seen little mini crises over the last year and a half, and indeed over the last week and a half, that should be telling people all is not well. I don't mean in some apocalyptical end of the world way. I mean in a way that you, whoever you are and wherever you are, could be adversely impacted, whether it's loss of a job, whether it's the availability of fuel for your vehicles or fuel for your home to heat and to power your home, availability of electrical supply, mains utilities, the economy and losing your savings and pensions, food availability in the shops, whether that's supply chain or crap harvests that we've had. There's lots of stuff just sitting in the background, and any one of those could rear its head next week, next month. If the media keeps on going with this panic over Christmas, Christmas is cancelled, it could happen as soon as Christmas, and one thing could have that domino effect, and all of the underlying stuff could just cause a big ripple, and you'd go from one little crisis on one particular aspect of your life to a full-blown global 2008 economic crash type scenario. So we do still have availability of everything actually in the shops. Yes, from time to time you'll go in the supermarket. I did it myself on Friday. I went into the supermarket. Some of the things that I was looking for, strange as it might sound, over-the-counter medicines, headache pills, Panadol, those shelves have been bare for weeks. But if you get in the car or take a walk down the street, have a look around. They will be there, just not in the volume that you're used to seeing, and perhaps not in the shop that you're used to going to pick them up. But stuff is still there. The question is, how long is that stuff still going to be there? And if the media does whip up a frenzy, just like the petrol scenario that we had last week, if they suddenly start to scare about food, and they're trying, believe me, they are trying on the news media to do that right now. If they do create a scare and a panic, just have a little think. How long will that supermarket that you go to have anything on the shelf if people start panic buying? You saw it in COVID, aimed at things like toilet rolls, sanitising liquid, bleachers, long-term food like rice and pasta. You saw it. We've had that already. If they suddenly start saying that all of your Christmas food is not going to be there at Christmas, and they start panicking, it's all of the shelves that are going to get stripped, not just the toilet rolls. So if you're not prepping already and you've just stumbled on this video, start prepping now. Don't go out tomorrow and fill your car with everything and anything, because that's why we had no petrol last week. Don't do that. Just as you go on your normal shopping trip, add a little bit. Take a bit of time to think about what food you eat that is storable for long term. And just make your little list, and week after week, just add a little bit, add a little bit, add a little bit. It doesn't take long to build up quite a decent supply, and it doesn't cost a fortune. I'm not saying go out and buy expensive food. I'm saying go out and buy food that will sustain you in a long-term shortage. So things like your rice, your beans, your pasta, sauces for all of those, canned vegetables, canned meat. Take a look at the videos that I've put out over the last 2 or 3 years. There's lots on there about long-term food storage. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to take up a warehouse in terms of space. But don't get caught out is the key thing, I guess. Don't panic. Prepare. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox now. But I can see it coming, so it would be wrong of me not to mention it yet again. There are too many things going on now in the background, and any one could start a domino effect. So in terms of the weekend, what are we doing this weekend? Tomorrow, I'm busy in the afternoon, so it might be a short day tomorrow. Today, there is a slim chance I might go for a beer tonight. God forbid. We'll see, I guess. But yeah, today the focus is on the garden, a little bit of harvest, I suspect, bit of moving of plants around, a bit of clearing out. I've got a few items on the bench there that I'll share with you. I'm conscious now that as we head into winter months, food availability for all of the wildlife will start to reduce. So I might well have a bigger problem than I did last year with pests. The chickens weren't here this time last year. They are now. So that's a bit of a magnet for the non-desirable pests. So there's a little bit of stuff I'm going to be doing connected with that. But whatever I am up to, I will share with you as we go through the rest of the video. Whatever you're doing and wherever you are, I hope you are staying safe and well. It is the weekend, so it's your chance to kick back, relax, enjoy your time away from work, and perhaps to have a little think about your prepping, what it is that you're doing, where you might be short, and what you're going to do about that in terms of fixing that shortage that you have. So yeah, enjoy your weekend, and I'll keep you up to date as we go through the rest of today. Well, let's take a little quick run round the garden room. Those strawberries don't want to hibernate, do they? Sweet potato, this one is still doing quite well. The other bucket that I planted doesn't really seem to have put much growth on at all. I don't know what's going on under the ground, obviously, but a distinct lack of growth there. But as you'll know, or regular viewers will know, this has been a bit of a late start experiment, so I'm not really expecting a great deal out of those, but you never know. The cabbage, on the other hand, is going great guns. We've got some massive growth on these. They're for a spring harvest, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with those as we go through the winter months, which is why they're inside rather than outside. So talking about outside, let's take a quick peek. In fact, let's do one thing quickly before I go to the actual garden area. Let's take a little look and see what we've got in those tanks this morning. We did have 100 litres added. I have taken some of that out though. Oh, that's not looking too bad at all. We're up to 500 litres, just over, in those tanks. So that's really good news. They're half full. So the water shortage, I guess, is officially over. We're certainly not going to get any heat waves now. Outside in the raised beds, you remember that last week I cleared those out. What is that? That, believe it or not, is a potato. That isn't, that's a weed. And that's a weed. You'll remember I emptied these out, but clearly I've missed a potato. It must be a bloody tiny potato. I'll do something with that later on. I'm not going to leave that there over winter. I've got 2 buckets left of potatoes. They're going to get harvested. I might do one this weekend and one next. They're not spoiling sitting in there. The beds are cleared out, you'll remember that. This is the potatoes for Christmas. And as you can see, they're not liking these temperatures. And I think that one's been eaten. So I think I'll move those inside before I kill them. Sweet corn that's been chewed to death. Don't know what to do with those. Do I take a look inside and see if I've got baby sweet corn in there? Because I have got some sizable ones on the ones that are left. The others, you'll remember, were eaten. I'll take a little look, I think. And there are some potatoes in there. You might remember there was a stray one that started growing. In fact, there's one there, look. That's a potato. So there are some in there. I don't know how many, obviously. So what do? Do I take that out now and just say enough? I guess you'll find out shortly. Polytunnel, it's time for the tomatoes to come out, I think. I might leave one plant in just for the hell of it to see what happens, but they're suffering now as well, temperature wise. Carrots, lots and lots of carrots in there. They're not going to come to any harm, just left in the buckets as they are. Whether I harvest some or not this weekend, I don't really know. I mean, you can see that they're in there, look. There's one there. I might be tempted, I don't know. But the polytunnel really is coming towards the end of its life this year. So it would be useful to clear out the tomatoes, free some space up for whatever it is that I want to experiment with over the winter months. This won't be heated in here for sure, but at some point the garden room will be. I think we have done the last cut of the grass now. It is looking nice and well kept. I don't really think that's going to grow much. The bits that would have, I did last weekend. The side by the bees, that is always the shortest growing or the slowest growing. So I don't think I'm going to be doing any more with that. I guess we'll see what the weather's like. If by the end of November, beginning of December, if the weather's not too bad and the ground's solid enough, I might be tempted, I don't know. One thing I will need to do this weekend, you remember I put some treatment in for mites. I did that last weekend. It's a 4-week treatment, so I'm going to have to do something this weekend. I'll just leave it for a few hours and see if it warms up a little bit, because there's not much activity there with the bees this morning. I think it's a little bit cool for them. They're loitering around the door thinking, bit chilly, I don't want to go out yet. They are nice. Got lots of these around the field. Mushrooms. Loads of them. In various places. You can probably see better up here, look. Look at all these. Loads and loads and loads of them. And as you look around, I'm assuming you can see that on the video, they're everywhere. And sizable as well. Look at the size of that. It's as big as my palm. We had this last year, you'll remember, and all different types as well. Anyway, let me get myself back into the cabin, make a decision as to what it is I'm going to be getting up to today, and I'll keep you posted as we go through the day. But they are everywhere. Look at this. Everywhere you look. Right, let me get back in and I'll show you what we've got on the workbench actually. Well, before we take a look on the workbench, a bit of a preamble. So the neighbour's horses are waiting for his arrival up the field there. You remember I put out some bait for rats. I don't know if you can see on there or not, but those have been chewed. But in all honesty, not as much as I expected them to have been. I have to say, I've not actually seen not one rat, but clearly there is evidence. They're here somewhere. You see in here also, this has been chewed a little tiny bit, but they don't seem to be doing too much with it. It's not attracting them as much as I expected it to. This one in here, that's been chewed. That's been well chewed. But I'm not seeing them. And I have seen signs of digging in the chicken coop. I put some extra blocks down a few weeks ago now, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. I don't remember how long, but since then. Hello girls. Now can you see, let me get my finger there, can you see that where my finger is, the little hole? So clearly they are still trying to get into the chicken coop or the pen, and from the pen they can probably get into the chicken coop. So with that in mind, let's take a little look. This camera's not focusing very well today, is it? Let's take a little look on the workbench. Excuse the mess. I've made myself another cup of coffee. Oh, what have we got? We've got all sorts going on. We've got the harvest of the eggs this morning. We've got some greenery for the chickens. Let's get that out of the way. And then we've got an assortment of stuff on here. A bit of an eclectic mix. So let me put the camera on the tripod and I'll explain what all of this stuff is about. Bit random, but all will become clear shortly. I've been doing a lot of digging around on YouTube. The trouble with YouTube is there are so many opinions out there. It's easy to go down little rabbit holes and into all kinds of conspiracy theories and weird and wonderful things. But I'm looking at pest control, rats in particular. What can I do to try and get rid of them? So there's a couple of different things here. First and foremost, easy solution is a rat trap. These, you push them down with your foot. There's a little platform there, and beneath the platform there's actually a removable, I think they call it, let me just make sure I don't catch my fingers here, a little removable bait station. So the idea is you put some bait onto this, it pops back into the bottom of the trap, just sits underneath that platform, and then little rat comes along, or mouse, is attracted by the bait, touches the platform, and game over. You can tie these down. There's a couple of little holes here, so that if you don't actually get it in one go and it tries to run off, it won't get anywhere because you've tied it down. So what to put on our bait platform? Ta-da, ta-da. Peanut butter. All kinds of things are suggested, but the one that crops up the most often is peanut butter. So I'm going to put a little bit of peanut butter onto these. I've got 5 or 6 of these, and I'll put those out near the actual runs or trails that you can see in various places around the chicken coop, and the drainage dike or ditch at the back of the field. And we'll see what happens with that, hopefully, because these are weatherproof. You can leave these outside in the rain, it doesn't make any difference. So there's solution number 1, the actual rat trap. So let me pop that out the way. This other one is a bit more random. This is actually something you can mix yourself. It's not a poison per se, so you can get this all over your fingers, you can eat it, it's not going to kill you. And allegedly, because I don't know, I've not tried this before, but allegedly this isn't going to injure other things that you might have around the house or the garden. So things like cats and dogs. Chickens clearly is the one that I'm worried about, which is why the bait isn't in or around the actual coop or pen. The last thing I want to do is try and kill some rats and end up killing my chickens. So allegedly this is friendly for other animals, but allegedly will kill rats. What is it? Well, that is plaster of Paris. Kids play with this in the nursery, make little figures. hobbyists use it, craft people use it in their projects. So we've got plaster of Paris in this bag. That is straight out of my kitchen. If you've watched me make bread, you'll have seen this in lots of videos. That's plain flour. That's all that is flour. And then completely random, we've got some packet soup mix. This one is chicken and vegetable. So this is straight out of my long-term food preps. It's actually come out of the cabinet where the kettle is behind me. I've got a variety of these and noodles and other bits and pieces. If I get hungry down here, I can just make a quick snack. So soup in a mug, quick snack. But in this case, a quick snack for hopefully rats, and it will kill them. So what do we do with all this? Well, I've got a couple of little plastic trays here. All we're going to do is mix up a batch of this. I'll quickly do one with you. So as you can see, that's a brand new bag. I've not actually used this. This is the first time of trying. So let's get rid of that. And all we're doing is putting equal amounts of plaster of Paris. Get rid of that one for now. Let's try 3 heaped spoons of that. And then 3 again equal 1-to-1 ratio. Let me get another spoon. Don't want to contaminate my flour. So 1, 2, 3. Remember which is which. Then we're going to take one of our cup of soups. I'm going to make up 2 of these, so I'll use half of this cup of soup. And the only reason we're using this is for smell, to attract the rat, the mouse. So it'll smell the flour, it'll smell the cup of soup, and hopefully it won't smell the plaster of Paris, or if it does, it won't know what it is. So we just mix that together. And then that'll be ready to go out. Now obviously I need to put this somewhere where it's not going to get rained on, otherwise that would defeat the object. So those 2 little plastic boxes that I put outside with the rat poison, I'm going to pop them into there. And that's them out of the weather, and we'll see what happens with this. But the idea is that the rat comes along, or the mouse comes along, it has a little nibble of this, and when it swallows it, it goes into its gut, obviously, and then the plaster of Paris is activated inside the gut, which blocks the gut and kills the rat or the mouse. So that's the theory behind it. Now whether it works or doesn't work, I honestly have no clue. I've not tried it before. But this does appear in lots and lots and lots of videos on YouTube. And if you Google it as well, it appears in a variety of different web pages. Some people use flour, some people use baking soda or baking powder. Which is better, I honestly don't know. But I've seen a number of people who have small farms and homesteads that have gone for the combination of flour and plaster of Paris. In terms of the other addition, some people have put things like powdered soup mix Others have put sugar in there as a way of attracting with the smell. So I don't know. I'm going to try it and see. I guess the thing with this is you're not likely to see them die at the bait station because they obviously eat, go away. It's a delayed reaction. It's not the same as the trap. If the trap gets them, they're there. You'll see it. If this gets them, or if the other poison that I put out gets them, chances are I won't. They'll disappear into their little burrows and die there. But I don't care where they die, as long as they die. So we'll give that a little bit of a try, see what happens. So, bit random for you today, but I just thought I would share that. Maybe some of you have a homestead, or you have a problem with pests where you are, and you're a bit concerned about putting poison down because of your animals or your kids or whatever. So I don't know, is it worth a try? It certainly is for me. It's not an expensive thing to do. The most expensive thing out of this was the plaster of Paris. I think I paid something like £5 for that bag, which is what, a kilo bag? Yeah, a kilo. The flour is cheap and cheerful, the packet soup is cheap and cheerful, and your plastic tub is cheap and cheerful. So it's not an expensive hobby. Poison bait is. I got a bag, I think there were about 20 little tablets in there, and it was 10 quid, £10. So way more than this solution. And I'm prepared to try pretty much anything. If it achieves the objective, then why not give it a go? Let's see. I'll keep you posted if I find any. If I see them, if they've eaten it, again, I'll keep you posted. But yeah, we're on a bit of a mission as we head into winter on pest control. Well, that's the chickens' content. They've now got their bit of greenery. Well, quite a lot of greenery actually. So they're quite content. It was carnage when I went into the pen to put that down. You would honestly think that they never got fed. My rat traps are out. I've got one just outside the chicken coop. The main area is around here. You can see there's a little run backwards and forwards. I can't actually see any hole under there, but I've put my DIY stuff in this little bait box here, and a couple of traps out there where it disappears off at the back into that drainage ditch. And then a similar kind of thing over here. I've got a trap out in the tractor garage. Don't actually see them at all, any signs of them in here, but I've put a trap out just in case. There's another one here where there's a little run, seems to disappear off back into that drainage ditch. Some more DIY stuff in that box there, a little bit inside the storage shed. So I don't know, I'm doing what I can, I guess. Even though I've not seen any, I physically haven't seen any, they are around. Neighbours caught a few in traps, so let's try and get on top of the problem. Bit of planning ahead again, I guess. Cool this morning. I shouldn't be too surprised since we're into October already, but it is. So I'll get myself sorted out in the cabin, tidy stuff away, and then we'll see what we can do in terms of planting and preparation for planting as we go through winter and into the new year. Well, I think the time has come to say a fond farewell to the tomatoes. I've just been picking some more tomatoes and cucumbers. Amazing amount of cucumbers this year, and compared to last year, an amazing amount of tomatoes. There are still some green ones on there, so I might gather a few of those and see if they'll ripen, or maybe use them in chutney. Though I did make a huge batch of chutney last week. I've probably got about 5 jars in the fridge. But I'll have a pick through. If I do think one of the tomato plants is worth saving, I might just save one. But I think in all honesty I need the space, and they're going to be past the best now. Well, that's the forest removed. All that remains now is to go through the pots, get rid of the roots, and get those stacked out the way. I might refill these containers with a bit of fresh compost just to have them ready for starting something else off. But space is what I need. I need to clear all this out, so I'll come back to you again shortly. Well, that's everything cleaned out, so I'll just leave that for the rest of today. Just let it dry out a little bit. Pots are stacked away. I'll bring everything back in. Well, I say everything, it's only the watering containers. Got a bit more dirt to put on the compost heap, and I think then I'll have 5 minutes with a cup of coffee. I'll get rid of these potatoes, get them inside out the way, and I might do a bit of harvesting. And at some point, I'm trying to put it off. I've got to spread that compost out the compost bin onto these beds. Busy, busy, busy. Well, it's typical, I guess. As soon as I started doing this, the rain started, but I've just pushed on, and all of these beds are now topped off with all of that compost. I've moved the marigolds across into that woodland area. They'll live or they won't, but they've got a fighting chance. If you can see them there, over there. That's the compost pile emptied away. The grass will grow through that, I'm not too worried about that. And as fast as I'm emptying that one, I'm filling up these others. We might get some more leaves on there during winter. I guess it depends on the weather, if it stays dry, but I need to get tidied up and stuff locked away before this rain gets heavier. Even though it's only light at the moment, I am getting very wet. Well, I'm guessing you can hear the rain. I brought these potato buckets inside, and I'm just going to tip one out and see how they are. I'll not be taking these home. I'll be popping these into the cabin in storage, as I've done with a couple of them. Wow, I can already see I've got potatoes. And to be fair, they're not looking too bad. There's the odd one that's got a little bit of scab on, but majority of them look clean. A little bit smaller than I thought they were going to be in this container, but I'm not complaining. They'll all eat. There's one of the original tubers. There's certainly plenty of them, but they are a little bit smaller. So I think I'll be tempted to leave that other bucket alone. See if we can encourage a bit more growth. It's another one of the original tubers. Yeah, quite a lot of small ones in this one. But most of them are nice and clean, which is what we want. Clean potatoes. There's certainly no shortage of them. It's another one of the original tubers. I keep picking up the odd stray when I pop the soil back in the bucket. And they're still coming. That's what you want. Why isn't it full of those? Well, like I said before, there's plenty of them. They're just a little bit smaller than I would have liked to see. But they will eat, and that's what it's all about. And they're still coming. I think we're about there though. Yep, I think that's it. So I'll get rid of this soil and then we'll take a look at what we've got. Well, instead of lifting that last bucket of potatoes, I'll leave that for another week. And let's take a look at a bucket of carrots instead. If there's one thing I'm not short of, it's carrots. So let's take a little look and see what we've got in here. We've got some not bad sized ones. But we've got an awful lot, again, of the smaller ones. I think these still need some time, you know. Because they're not as big Hey, I'm not complaining, there's some decent sized ones in amongst them. They're not bad. But we do have an awful lot of these smaller ones. Something's chewed that one. But as you know, we can still use them. We can always make some carrot soup out of the smaller ones. That's about done, that one. There's plenty of them, they're just not a great size. That's what we should be getting, but instead we're getting those. Oh dear. Well, I'm not going to complain because they will all eat. Even these little tiny ones will come in for something. And there's certainly no shortage of them. But yeah, I think we need to still leave these for a while longer because they are still very small. Well, I'm guessing you can hear the rain. This is what we got. This is the onions that I pulled last week. They've just been in the cabin drying off. Hope you can see those on the video. So I'll be taking those home. I'll also be taking the cucumber and tomato home. Amazing amount of cucumbers this year, and certainly way better tomatoes than I had last year, so they can go home. The carrots, a little bit disappointing in terms of size, but out of a single bucket there's a lot there, so they can come in for soups or salads or whatever. And the potatoes, not as big, but the main thing is almost all of them are clean. There's only the odd one, like this one, that's got any of that skin scab on. So I'll spread these out in here, just let them dry out as I did with the previous ones. Let the air get to them, and I'll pick those up and pop them into storage. The ones with the scabs I'll take home. The clean ones can join all the others that I've got in those cardboard boxes in the shed. So there we go, little harvest for today. This rain is getting heavier, so I think it's about time I packed up, locked up, and got myself off home. Well, that's it for another day and another video. Everything's locked up. This rain looks like it's in for the day now. It's not particularly heavy, but clearly if you're out in it you're going to get wet. I'm hoping that it goes a long way to topping up the rainwater harvesting tanks. I've not managed to look at the bees today. Can you see where I did? I do spoil my animals. I popped those marigolds out of the polytunnel and just popped them as a handy source of food next to the beehive. Hopefully I'll come down early in the morning and it's not raining. I'll be able to pop another dose of that mite treatment in there, and that's it for a second week. You're at the mercy really of the weather. I can't open up the hive when it's like this, so fingers crossed we'll do that tomorrow. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I hope you're staying safe and well and enjoying your weekend, and I'll catch up with you shortly. Well, that's it for this video. I hope there was something in there that was of interest to you.
If you did like the video, please do click on the like button. Also feel free to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. As always, welcome any comments, questions or suggestions you might have. Are you panicking? I hope you're not. I hope you're preparing instead. There is an awful lot of stuff going on in the big wide world. Lots of different mini crises going on, and any one of those really could just tip the balance and we could end up with a 2008 style disaster. Fingers crossed we don't, but it's worthwhile preparing now just in case, so you don't have to be fighting for fuel, for food, or for anything else for that matter. What are you doing to prepare? Let us all know in the comments section below. But for now, thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.